ultimately moved into the White House counsel's office, where I was very involved in the litigation around the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And then when the Restore Act was passed in 2012, it called for a new federal agency to be created in the Gulf of Mexico. And I volunteered to move from Washington to Louisiana to set up the Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Council, which is the group charged with administering the about $7 billion in civil and administrative penalties. And I did that for 4 years. And while I was doing that, and that was work going from South Texas all the way to the Florida Keys, thinking about how to prioritize the best ecosystem restoration, economic development, and resilience projects, one of the things that I was really impressed by was the need for really strong applied science.
Right.
There's great science all across the Gulf, all over the world, but the ability to take the best available science and make it practical for decision making was something that I recognized as just so important. And so when I came to know the Water Institute through that work, and when I was approached about the opportunity to join this team, I jumped at it. So that's how a lawyer working in Washington, D.C. ultimately finds his way here. And I think the opportunity to be part of what Louisiana's doing and this broader resilience community that is really on the cutting edge of so much that's going to become even more and more important as time goes on. It's been just a lot of fun and a real honor.
Well, we're happy to have you here in Louisiana with us. And as you know, the center that I run has a similar goal, similar mission, specializing in public-private partnerships, but looking at resilience. And for us in Louisiana, I think it's really important, and I'd ask you to talk a little bit about this. To us, coastal restoration and protection is the #1 resilience effort that we can undertake in Louisiana. Tell us a little bit about, because we're talking to people around the country and in other parts of the world, about the crisis that's happening right now on Louisiana's coast and how we're working to address that.
Sure. So really, since the 1930s, the state of Louisiana has lost far too much land, far too much of our wetland complex in particular. In fact, when you look over that decadal space of time, we've lost around about the size of Delaware.
Wow.
in our wetlands. There are countries who have gone to war to protect that amount of territory. So it really is an existential crisis. We lose approximately a football field of wetlands every 100 minutes.
Every 100 minutes?
Every 100 minutes, a football field of land is gone. And the reasoning for it, this has been known to us since the late 1800s. After the flood in 1927, we all got together and led by the Army Corps of Engineers, we said never again. And we built levees all along the Mississippi River. And the good news is, for the most part, they work and they protect our homes and our businesses and communities. The bad news is in this delta that we've cut off our oxygen source. We've cut off the sediment because the 40% of the continental United States drains into the Mississippi River. All that sediment, when the river would flood, would go over the banks, replenishing our wetlands. You cut that off and that sediment goes off the outer continental shelf. So good from a flood risk reduction perspective, not good from maintaining your coastal wetlands.
Right.
Then you throw in the entrance of salinity level changes, so you have saltwater intrusion, which injures the natural vegetation. You have subsidence. You have the fact that we're in a difficult neighborhood for storms. You put that all together, and it's difficult to do nothing and maintain your wetlands and have them grow. So what we've done is the state of Louisiana has created the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority. We have the most remarkable master plan, certainly in the country, perhaps in the world, a 50-year, $50 billion coastal protection and restoration plan. And that's being funded and implemented now. And so the Water Institute has been a core part of putting together the science and analysis underpinning that program. And increasingly we're finding, which is I think one of the great things that we'll hope to be able to do wonderful work with you around, is engaging the private sector through public-private partnerships in funding this work, and really not just being innovative from a scientific perspective, but also from a financial and implementation perspective.
You know, we're sitting in this beautiful facility of yours, literally over the Mississippi River.
That's right.
And we know the issue here is, the issues here, and solving those can create opportunities for other places around the world. But the Water Institute of the Gulf is not limited to the Gulf.
That's right.
And so a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about what you feel the Institute could move forward toward in an international way. And also the 10X conference, which reached out all the way to California from here and all the way to the East Coast, looking at how states can work together to address this issue of water. So I'd love for you to do both of those things for us.
Sure. Well, first, a little bit about, so I mentioned some of what we're doing in Louisiana. After Hurricane Harvey in Houston, our friends in Texas reached out, and the Rockefeller Foundation asked the Water Institute to be the strategy partner for the City of Houston's resiliency strategy. So we have been working with a number of partners to put that together. And the idea really is, in the Houston example and a few others I'll mention, that we've learned a great deal in Louisiana through the crises we've been through, whether it's Katrina, Rita, or just the general coastal land loss crisis we faced. And the idea is that we can share that knowledge with our colleagues in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, while at the same time learning from them and bringing their insights back to our work in Louisiana. So we've been increasingly busy in Texas. We've also done a lot of work recently in Charleston, South Carolina. Different part of the country, but a number of similar challenges that the peninsula, that is Charleston, faces. So that's a little bit of an example of how we've spread around some parts of the United States. We have a really exciting project underway right now in Argentina, where we're working with Iñaki Alde, who's the dean of Tulane's School of Architecture. And we've also been pursuing projects in coastal Chile, as well as a few collaborations with our colleagues in the Netherlands. So what we're finding is that whether you look at our work in the Mekong Delta, whether it's in Chile, whether it's in Argentina, or back here in the United States, the facts in some ways are different, but some of the core issues that we struggle with are the same.
Absolutely.
And so to bring our insights and to bring really a shared knowledge exchange to these opportunities allows everybody to learn and everyone to enjoy the benefits of it.
Well, and that's really what the center that I established is about as well, is looking at how we can leverage and how we can collaborate, bringing things together, bringing resources together, bringing ideas together to form these types of public-private partnerships that can make an impact.
Yeah.
And not just here, but around the world.